What's going on, guys? Today on What's Cooking, we're actually going to be cooking. We're in the kitchen instead of the normal setup, and today we're looking at the staple of our diet for most people, and that's chicken. Chicken is a great protein source and one that is extremely lean, so it should be a major factor in almost anybody's diet as long as you're consuming meat. But how do we make a pretty bland meat more interesting yet still keep it healthy? We're going to look at a really quick way to cook it today, but we're also going to look at ideas of keeping this extremely fresh and interesting, because if you're eating it 5 or 6 times a day, the last thing you want to do is bore of your main protein source. So let's do that on this episode of What's Cooking. Alright guys, so the first thing we have to do is open up our package of chicken, and we're going to actually trim off the excess skin that's on the chicken itself. That way we keep it even more lean and healthy, so we're avoiding the fats here and being able to add those in at different points in our diet. Because as much as these always say boneless, skinless chicken breasts, they're actually not completely boneless, skinless, at least on the skin side of things. We also are going to cut off the rib meat, because rib meat actually has a lot of fat and is very veiny. So we're going to get that off there too. So let's do that in 3, 2, 1. Alright guys, so we have our chicken trim. And what we're going to do next is actually rinse it off, because chicken has a really slimy film on it. It's actually really good to get that off there, because it's only going to cause some extra thickness in our actual cooking. So I just rinse each breast off slightly just to get that slimy effect off of it. Don't worry about little pieces of fat. There's going to be a little bit of skin left on your chicken, and that's okay. We don't mind a little bit, we just don't want the excess on it. So whatever you can kind of peel off, go ahead and do so. I mean, just the rib meat alone makes a big impact on the healthiness of the chicken that you're actually making. So we're just looking for a quick rinse on all of our chicken breasts right here. So after we're all set rinsing off the chicken, I'm breaking out my most favorite kitchen contraption out there, and that's the Instapot. Inside here right now, I've got about 7 pounds of chicken. For me, in my current state where I'm bulking, this will last me approximately 4 to 5 days. So I really like to make sure I'm cooking in heavy bulk. You can also use a crock pot if you have it, but the great thing about the Instapot is it's a pressure cooker. So it's going to take a whole lot less time to actually make your chicken. So that's why I always strongly suggest using something like this, especially in a time crunch. But if you're looking to save a little money and already have a crock pot, that's also a great way to go. You can actually simmer it the same way we're going to cook it here in the crock pot. So basically what I do here, just follow that for the crock pot type of recipe. Next up, we're going to add a little water. So I like to add just a little bit of water just to make sure that the chicken doesn't stick to the bottom. In all, about a cup. It doesn't matter if you're exact, because in the end it's just extra broth. You can either choose to keep it or dump it off. Totally up to you. Personally, I always dump it off after I'm done, because I like to freeze a portion of it, and I don't like the broth encasing the chicken when I freeze it. To me, it's just unnecessary. So with the pressure cooker, all we have to do is pop it on. Makes a pretty little noise for us, and then we're just going to hit pressure cook, Instead of 25 minutes, if it's not already because you cook something else, that's where you want it. Normal pressure, normal setting, high pressure. We're going to keep it warm after it's done. It's going to make a beep to let us know it's on and that it's all set. And we also want to make sure this little dial on the top is actually pushed back towards pressure building and not venting, so it's not letting out unneeded pressure. Now, while it says 25 minutes, it's going to take a little bit longer than that because it's got to build up pressure first, and also the heating element has to be able to build that up inside here. But when we're all said and done, this chicken is going to be awesome. And we've got some great ideas to also keep it fresh along the way. Note, I didn't put anything extra in the pot. So let's check it out when it's all said and done in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright guys, so we are back, and the Instapot just finished up. It's currently in the letdown mode, which is what that little L stands for. You can't see it back here, but the little indicator on the back still says the pressure is extremely high. So we want to make sure we do one of two things. We either let it come down naturally, which just continues to cook the food while it's in there, keeps it warm, a little bit hotter than it typically would be if we just keep that warm function on. But at the same point, the other option we have is to vent it. So for the purpose of the video, I'm going to go ahead and vent it and show you the chicken inside is perfectly cooked. We'll take a peek at what we do with it next. 3, 2, 1, go. So as you can see guys, our chicken is now done. The little indicator back here dropped off, the pressure is relieved, and if we go ahead and take the lid off, we have some beautiful chicken inside. I mean, it's cooked to perfection, as you can see. So one of the big things that I really like about cooking chicken this way, forgive me while I grab a fork, is that it's extremely tender. So it just shreds right apart. And that's one of the main ways that I like to cook my chicken and eat my chicken, is to be able to shred it apart like this. Because when you're able to shred it apart, it actually eats a lot easier when you are rewarming it up for multiple meals throughout the week. So that would be my main suggestion. Whether you're cooking in the crock pot or an Instapot, make sure you think about shredding the chicken first and foremost, because again, when you heat it up, it's a lot easier to eat. It doesn't come out as rubbery, it stays more moist throughout because it's all shredded apart, and that moisture that builds up when you cover up something in the microwave actually does a really good job of keeping that chicken really nice and supple. So I definitely recommend cooking chicken this way. The Instapot's a great way to go. Again, a crock pot always works, but this chicken started off in the Instapot at about 11:25, and the current time right now is 12:16, meaning in just under an hour I was able to cook the chicken, relieve the pressure, and even start to shred it apart by the time that the chicken would probably just be about a quarter of the way done in the crock pot. So it really can save you some time, and you can always go with the smaller one. You don't actually have to go with the Instapot brand either to save a few bucks along the way. I've seen them as cheap as about 40 bucks at Best Buy, and they're a great value. It is a must-have in my opinion for anybody that's looking to cook in bulk in the kitchen. So after the chicken is all done in the Instapot, the question becomes, what do you do with it on a consistent basis to make sure that you don't bore of a pretty bland meat to begin with? Like we established to start, this stuff has a lot of protein. It is one of the best protein sources you can get outside of fish in terms of keeping it low carb and also low fat. So chicken has to be a staple of almost any diet, whether you're bulking or you're cutting. This is the way to go to ensure so you're getting the best health benefits overall. Really, it is one of the cleanest ways to eat. Of course, you can always go organic and things like that, but if you're looking to cook cheaply and also get good nutrition, buy the regular family packs of chicken. I especially recommend if you have an Aldi around you, you can get it right now for about $1.49 a pound. It's a great value. But again, what do you do to keep it interesting? Well, I've got some fresh ideas of ways to make this chicken more edible on a consistent basis. And voila, there you have it. A bunch of different toppings that you can put on your chicken depending on what your favorites are. These are a few of mine. We're going to go over them and what they all share commonly across them in terms of why they work so well with chicken and why we cook it the way we do and don't put these in while we're cooking it. That's the first key. So one of my favorites is actually taco sauce. I love taco sauce because the calories are only about 10 calories per tablespoon, and on top of that there's only 2 grams of carbs, and there's 0 fat, of course, in taco sauce. So great go-to. Put it on the chicken, even add a little bit of dry taco seasoning to it. You've got a wonderful shredded chicken taco that's absolutely delicious. The next one's A1. Typically this is great on steak, but it also tastes really good on chicken too. And this one is 1 tablespoon, only 3 grams of carbs. There's 2 extra grams of sugar in here. That's really low for the most part when we're talking about added sugar. And there's only 15 calories. So you can really get away with adding a couple of tablespoons of each of these to really make your chicken taste good, especially if you're eating approximately 6 ounces at a time. Another one is soy sauce. Now this one has 3 grams of carbs and also has 10 calories, but again 0 fat, and serving size is 1 tablespoon as well. So a good chunk of this goes a long way, especially because of the sodium content. You don't have to have a ton of it to actually make some good flavor, and I'll show you my guilty pleasure that I actually mix this with here in just a sec. The next one's ketchup. So ketchup actually can be a little dangerous because there is added sugar in ketchup. You can actually go with the sugar-free version, which actually lessens it up by a couple of carbs. This one we're looking at has 4 grams of added sugar, which means 4 grams of carbs. At the same point, there is 0 fat and 20 calories in a tablespoon. Again, something that goes a long way that you can even mix in with a little hot sauce just to give a little creamy texture to your chicken, and it makes it really edible on a consistent basis. Sriracha I absolutely adore. There is 0 calories in this stuff and 0 fat. There is also less than 1 gram of carbs. So unless you are super worried about sodium, which this one is actually pretty low at 75 milligrams, you can really use however much of this you really want to. This is a delicious sauce. For me, it was an acquired taste over time, but it is a staple of my diet now. Just make sure you don't have a bunch of heartburn and issues with acid reflux before you go and invest in something like sriracha. Frank's Red Hot Sauce, another one. There is 0 fat, 0 carbs, and 0 calories in a teaspoon. Again, the big thing we're looking at here is sodium content. So if you don't really have a big problem with sodium, this is the way to go. And I will tell you, for the most part, general rule of thumb, as you become more conditioned, you're not going to have as many issues with sodium. Kind of living proof of that. Started off on a blood pressure pill at 16 years old, and I no longer take it. With the type of exercise and cardio that I do, I really don't watch my sodium at all. Alright, so lastly, when we have the liquid toppings for chicken, the last one is 20 calories and 4 grams of carbs, again because of 4 grams of sugar, and that is a Japanese style teriyaki sauce. Be careful with teriyaki sauces. They're notorious for adding in a lot of sugar. Some of the cheaper ones you'll find have as many as like 9 to 10 grams of carbs per tablespoon, so really watch that. Some of the more liquidy ones that come out like a soy sauce actually don't have as much added sugar. This one by Food Network actually is really decent when you look at the thickness of it, so it's going to coat the chicken really well, and then also on top of that, keep it pretty low carb. So again, if you're cutting, these things can actually be a little dangerous. If you like hot sauces, I would stick a little bit more to those because you're going to add in extra carbs, or go to what we're going to talk about next, and that's the dry ingredients. So one of my favorites to use with sriracha is actually a chili lime seasoning. If you sprinkle this stuff on the chicken before you microwave it for a second time, it is absolutely delicious. The lime really gives that tang to it along with the sweetness. It is definitely a way to go. There's a couple of different brands out there. I have not found one I dislike, so a dry chili lime seasoning is awesome, especially when you mix it with sriracha. Next up is basically any of the Mrs. Dash. So if you have a sodium intolerance, Mrs. Dash is a great way to go. There is only 10 milligrams of potassium, which actually helps enhance the flavor a little bit, but there is 0 milligrams of sodium. So any Mrs. Dash, this is the Italian Medley. I really like this one overall, and I've got a few extras. There's a ton of different ones out there. There's even some liquid forms of Mrs. Dash seasonings or marinades that you can use too, but I definitely recommend these being a staple in your cupboard because they work awesome on all seasonings. And then last but not least is my go-to every single time. So for some of you out there, you may not mind eating the same type of chicken every day, but for some you may need to mix it up, which is why this array of toppings is awesome and some of the go-tos that I keep in the cupboard. But as time goes on and you become more accustomed with your diet, depending on your goals, you may actually find that you don't mind eating the same thing more frequently. For me, I don't really mind it. I've really become accustomed to that type of eating. And this stuff right here is a go-to for me. It is garlic sea salt. So I really like the sea salt version of garlic salt over regular. There's just a different flavor. It enhances it better. And then almost always these are going to come with, in terms of the sea salt versions, parsley mixed in. Parsley, not a very flavorful topping, but it really helps the garlic sea salt overall. It's absolutely to die for. I put this stuff on my chicken, on my rice, and that's it, and that's how I eat it, my veggies. And I literally probably eat that meal about 4 to 5 times a day. It is a go-to. So find your go-to. What is the one thing you don't mind more than anything being on your chicken consistently? And then utilize that as much as possible to help keep some of the carb potential down that you may run into with some of these other options. But at the same point, there are always options out there. And as long as you can work them into your diet, and making sure you're keeping your calories low, especially for those that are just beginning. Remember, we're focused on calories, not necessarily the macros to start. Focus on your calories. As long as it fits in that calorie goal and you're in a deficit, that's truly what matters and where you're going to lose the weight. And keeps things like this, a very bland meat, extremely interesting. Oh, and I almost forgot. I do have one guilty pleasure that's actually not quite as good for you. It does have some fat, so if you're looking to add a little bit of fat into your diet, I actually use this on rice and chicken in a bowl along with soy sauce on a consistent basis, and that's Yum Yum. So Yum Yum, a Chinese staple when it comes to seasoning or flavoring things. It's great on seafood, it's awesome on chicken, it's great on steak. It is amazing. Chinese, Japanese, it is awesome. However you choose to make it, it is a staple in a lot of hibachis, so you can always get a taste there. There is actually 16 grams of fat in one serving of this, which is 2 tablespoons or 30 grams. I typically pop my bowl on my food scale before I proceed and I weigh it out rather than actually trying to drizzle it from a spoon, so I get a little bit more accurate with it. And the carbs aren't bad. There's only 5 grams of carbs in this guy. So it's really the fat you have to look out for. So if you're keeping it low fat and you really want to lose weight fast, fat is the main way to cut that right off the bat. But again, calorie-wise, if you're keeping it under, there's 160 calories here, which isn't terrible as long as you're keeping moderate. As long as you're keeping it moderate, and on top of that, With the soy sauce, it actually kind of helps liquefy this a little bit, and it actually mixes in really well with the chicken and the rice. And I actually also like tuna and rice with this guy on it too. So definitely something to try out if you're looking for something that is a little bit of a unhealthy treat in your diet. This is a great way to go along with the chicken. So guys, is chicken a main staple of your diet? I want to know in the comments below what you depend on for protein most, because protein is one of the pillars to make sure that you are consuming enough of to stay full and satisfied, and also to make sure that you're building strong muscles along the way. So do you use any of these types of ingredients with your chicken? I definitely recommend thinking about some of them if you haven't tried them already. And again, sound off in the comments below if you cook your chicken plain consistently. Do you shred it up like this? It's a great way to go if you're looking to keep things really tasty, but also to make sure that you're not mixing in these to begin with to where you're getting bored with what you're actually eating. Hit that thumbs up button if you learned something new today. I definitely appreciate the support. Make sure you subscribe and turn on that notification bell for some great videos along the lines of what's cooking, to make sure that you're staying up on your health and nutrition. And don't forget, if you like video games too, with a little rest and relaxation, we got that covered here at Dumbbells and Joysticks. So don't forget, work hard, play hard, and I'll see you in the kitchen again real soon.